If you're only interested in guitar repair, you can stop watching the video now. Hey everybody, this is Matt and we're at Texas Toast Guitars. Thanks for watching. I'm sitting here with a new version of the TTG Hustler. This one is in all white limba and is going to be super cool. It's going to have that kind of 58 all gold hardware and a little bit of an amber clear coat, and it's going to be excellent. When we launch these guitars, I think you're going to want to get one. This one's super cool. But I'm not here to talk about my new guitar. I'm here to talk about an old tool. Kind of a long-term review of my Grizzly radius sander. And I've already done a bunch of videos about how to use the radius sander, but I want to talk about what it's been like to have this tool for approximately 10 years and share with you some of my thoughts on it. And like I said, if you're only interested in doing guitar repair, this tool I don't think it's going to do you a heck of a lot of good, okay? We'll touch on that a little bit. Further, and to that end, if you get this tool, take it out of the box and assemble it, you might not be super jazzed with it. I'm going to give you some tips and tricks on if you decide to get this. I'm going to tell you why you want to get one, and I'm going to tell you what you're going to want to do almost immediately once you get it. Okay, so anyway, this is one of the Grizzly's fairly standard edge sanders. Let me move the camera a little bit. We'll get more of the tool in the picture here. So as you guys can see, this is just an edge sander that's been rotated 90 degrees so that you're not sanding on the edge. You're actually sanding it. The sander is horizontal. Now, if you have whichever model this is, the G0574. That's the number for the fretboard sander, but this is whatever this edge sander is. They didn't like make an all new edge sander for it. They just kludged together some overarm mechanism for using a standard edge sander, and so that's what you'll see. This is just a regular edge sander. I think that if you contact Grizzly, you can, let's say you have this edge sander, I think you can contact them and order, just the bits to convert your edge sander into a fretboard swing arm radius sander. I can't guarantee that if you have any regular old edge sander that it's that this stuff will retrofit to that. That's going to be up to you to decide. But anyway, when I first got this tool, like I said, it's been about 10 years now. We resisted buying this for a long time because it's a lot of money, especially if you're a small shop like we are. Having said that, I think that if you build instruments, any amount of them, if you build one, that's probably not going to justify a tool like this. But if you're building any amount of instruments, I think you have to have this tool or a tool like it, okay? And we'll get to that in a little bit. So what we had done before is I had another edge sander, and it had on the opposite side of the regular platen, it had like a molding shoe that you could put different molding negative images of, and then you could press a piece up against this molding shoe, and you could use it to make molding. Okay, so what we did was we took a radius caul and put it on there, and we would put the necks on the. I knew there was a reason I had my Hustler model. Obviously, the necks weren't attached to the guitar, but you could do it this way too. We would push the necks up against that radius caul, and the sandpaper would remove the material. And it worked. It worked really well. You could do that, and if you got good at it, you could get a pretty decent result. But before that, even we had just radius blocks and hand sand stuff. That was not fun. We had one of those jigs for your router that the fretboard would kind of, would radius on a board that would hold the fretboard, and the router would go over it, and it would rough cut the radius. You still had to sand it. Also not cool for me, says me. We tried all manner of things. There used to be a thing you could get from, don't quote me, I think it was LMI, and it was an indexed thing that you would send under your thickness sander. I'm like, well, I got a thickness sander, and so you had this faceted thing, and it was okay. There's any number of things. I've seen some router bits that do radius. I've seen CNCs that do radius. I've seen Plek machines that do radius. Let me tell you guys something. Nothing works like this. Okay, if you have a $12 radius block, or if you have a $500,000 CNC machine, nothing puts a fretboard radius on better than this tool here, as I have it modified. Says me. Okay, there will be somebody who wants to fight me in the comments, but they don't make anything that looks as cool as this. They do. Okay, let me put this back, and we'll start talking a little bit more about the radius sander. So, if you buy one of these, when you get it, it doesn't come with it. Well, it comes with something that looks a little bit like this. Okay, and it has a slot that goes down the side of both of these uprights here, these standards, and these little pivot. I'm gonna call them pivot bosses. I don't know what they're actually called. They go in that slot, and you can measure and get it exactly right. And I tried it a few times. I'm like, ugh, that stinks. Let's come up with something else that works better. So I commissioned someone to build me this armature, which all this is, and I'm not trivializing or marginalizing the machinist who did this, but all this is some aluminum. This is like 1 inch by ½ inch or 3/4 aluminum. That's screwed together, and there's a bunch of, the key is, I have to get it off of this deal again. You can see the screws that hold right there, and then there's 2 here. The key is to get the center of these holes here, the same on both sides. Okay, and what I said I wanted was from the center of these holes here. I wanted. How do I explain this? Okay. I have to figure out how to tell you guys this. These are all set up to be 7 1/4, 10 inch, 12 inch, 14 inch, and 16 inch. Some very common radius. Some very common radiuses for guitars. So when I had the machinist do that, I said from the center of this hole here to the bottom of this piece here, plus 1.5 inches for my neck blank, plus 5/16 for my fretboard, so whatever that is. Okay. That locked me in to using my necks, which start out life for my set neck guitars. They have a 1.5 inch neck blank with a 5/16 or 1/4 inch fretboard. That's not that big of a deal. Okay, and then the beauty part of that is, half of that would be what I would use for a fender neck, which would be 3/4 of an inch thick instead of 1.5 inches thick. That's what this extra piece on the bottom of this is, just a piece of 3/4 inch aluminum screwed to the jig. Okay, I can also do just a fretboard by using this 1.5 inch chunk of MDF. I just attach my fretboard directly to that, and it's like a surrogate neck, if you will. Okay, so what that does is the downside is it kind of locks me in to using necks that are either, well, fretboards that are either 5/16 to 1/4 only, fender necks that are 3/4 inch of, like, say, maple plus 1/4 inch or 5/16 of fretboard, or 1.5 inches of neck material plus 1/4 inch or 5/16 of fretboard material. The upside is that it locks it in perfectly, okay? So I don't have to worry, I don't have to like measure, I don't have to try to finagle those slot, like the slot piece on the side to work effectively. So one could have, anyone who can work with aluminum and has some sort of milling experience, one could have them produce something like this for you. The neat thing is someone inevitably asks, can it do conical radius? And the answer is absolutely, yes it can. Even with my setup that I have here. So what you would do, say, is if you wanted to do, say, let me see if I can get this in the camera here, a 10 inch to 16 inch compound or conical radius, you would set one side to 10 and the other side to 16. You'd have to get your fretboard index so that the 10 side was the right one, yeah. And then it allows this to move in a conical kind of motion. Right now, excuse the squeaking. Right now it moves in a very fluid motion. As you can imagine, when you move this one up here and this one down here, it kind of moves. It's still fluid, but it takes a little bit to get used to, especially if you're used to just the one speed. So it will do a conical radius very effectively, very well, and so if you were wondering, yes, it can do that. Some other things that I think that you should know. If you ever come into my shop and you look at this tool, you will notice there is a boatload of shim stock everywhere, okay? Kind of strengthening and making this armature a little more rigid. I gotta say, I'm not completely appointed or disappointed with how the armature is attached. I think it could have been a little better, but I think it's okay. And I think if you have a little bit of creativity and a box of shims from Granger or somewhere, you can make it really, really good. But again, if you're just going to buy this tool and take it out of the box and try running it, you might not be as thrilled with this tool as, say, I am, because you'll have the original standards that came with this, with the slot, and if you don't put shims and shim everything up and get it nice and tight, you're going to be able to tell it seems a little rickety. And the fact is, it's kind of rickety looking, but it's not rickety working. Okay. One other thing: if you decide that you are only going to use a standard 7 1/4, 10, 12, 14, 16, whatever radius, you can shim these pieces here. If you're going to do any conical radius, you're going to want to have these guys be enough of a wiggler to move around. Okay, these have to have some play, and I think that's probably why the original setup didn't come with a boatload of shims. They probably know that it has to move and give a little bit, okay? That's not a tolerance issue, that's a clearance issue, okay? So all my buddies who run CNC machines, there's a big difference between tolerance and clearance, okay? This tool here is, it takes a standard, 6x80 edge sanding belt. Super cool because you can do a bunch of material removing with, say, like a 60 or 80 grit belt, really get a bunch of that stuff off of there quick. And then what I do is I switch over to a finer belt to kind of polish stuff out. We go to 150 grit on the radius sander. I've had people say, well, Paul Reed Smith goes to 200 or 400 or whatever it is that they go to. That's cool. If you certainly could get a finer grit abrasive than 150, but remember, we still have to press in frets, and there might be glue, and there might be other stuff, and if you put any kind of finish on this, it is very likely that finish can seep in through the masked off top of the fretboard, and so you're going to scrape that off anyway. So 150 will get you a very, very clean, basically ready to oil fretboard, good to go, says me. And if not, any sort of fine tuning and scraping with the razor blade will take care of any scratches that you can see. Guys, this one has not been scraped. It's just right off of the 150 grit. It looks like $1 million. It's smooth as silk, and yeah, I wouldn't worry too much about it. But because it's a standard belt, if you want to sand it to 220, 400, whatever belts you can get, depending on how many dollars you got and how many times you want to switch the belt out, absolutely go for it. So we start with I think it's 60 grit, and then go to 150, and we feel like we're good to go. Okay. People often ask me, let me put this guitar away again. I like having it here, but I also have to put it away a bunch. People ask me, the radius jig itself is at an angle, and people often ask me why. Because the platen is so wide, it really doesn't matter if this is at an angle or straight on. So if you put it at an angle, you actually use more of the belt. That's really it. You don't have to do it like I do it. A couple other things that I think you should know about when you get this tool. These adjustment wheels are absolutely positively your best buddies. Okay, learn how to use them. I keep a bunch of magnets on mine, so I've got I've got this StewMac radius gauge on one of the magnets, so I can check my radius if I need to use. Here's one I don't use very often. It's 14, 15, 16, 20. Obviously, I only have 14 and 16 on this. But if I'm doing a conical radius or somebody wants something really flat, I keep that one over there. I also keep a little magnetic tray with some Allen keys for different things, and just some regular old screws. Obviously, the Allen keys for different things fit different nuts. So, like this one here works with the locking nut on this fine tuning wheel. So I have a couple of those in here. This Allen wrench actually loosens and tightens the screws that hold my extension, my 3/4 extension on here. The screws, I actually, when I'm using my set necks on here, they're 1.5 inch neck blanks, remember? So I just screw through these holes into the back of the neck. And when I shape the neck, all those holes go away because my necks aren't 1.5 inches thick. So if I screw into them 3/8 of an inch, I've got a really super strong connection with my. Again, I'm sorry about the squeaking, with my radius swinger, and I don't have to worry about the necks coming off. Obviously, you can't do that if it's just a fretboard or it's just the like a 3/4 inch fender neck. You have to come up with some different cool stuff for that. Double stick tape is your friend. Some indexing pins are your friend. Like, say, for example, that would on a fender neck, maybe you could put some indexing pins that would be where the screws will eventually attach on the back. And if you're really cool, maybe you have one where your low E string is. Like for example, I have two pins down here. These are just regular wood pins that I can pull on and off. Two down here, that's where the rearmost neck bolt, neck screw holes are, and then this one up here is where my low E tuner will eventually go. So I drill all these things to 1/8 of an inch, and then I can kind of double stick tape and index it onto my jig, and it just makes life a little easier. Okay. You'll notice that I have this clamp up here. That's because some of these bolts have stripped out the on the inside. So this bolt here, I can tighten it and loosen it by hand. One day I'll probably fix that, but this great big C clamp here is actually faster and toolless. So maybe what I'll do is I'll just put another C clamp on this side and pull these tools or pull these bolts out and not use them anymore. And then that way I don't have to worry about, you know, threading into whatever this stuff is, aluminum or pot metal or whatever it's made from. I actually, you know what, that probably makes the most sense. Just get another C clamp instead of fixing this. Yank out all the stuff that requires a tool to adjust, and then I don't have to worry too much about it. So anyway, the first time I ever saw a tool like this was maybe the same place that you guys saw it, on an Ernie Ball video many years ago. And I saw Ernie Ball didn't invent this, obviously, but that's the first time I saw it. And I'm like, man, that's cool. I wonder how I get one. Well, after I watched it a few times, I saw a bunch of other people who had like shop-built versions of that tool, or you know, some sort of way to do that. I got to tell you, when I was at Roberto Venn, we had an edge sander that was placed horizontally, and we would just kind of like do this, and you would get a little bit of radius. If you look somewhere, there's a video of Chris and Jesse and myself trying to match a radius by just kind of going by hand and holding the neck, and I look like a monkey. Holding this by hand and swinging it over the abrasive belt. Man, it's really hard to do. I'm not saying you can't do it, but the way we did it at Roberto Venn was not the way I advise you to do it. That was 35 years ago, but yeah, so I don't think they do it that way anymore. In fact, I know they don't. So you don't have to buy the Grizzly G0574 fretboard radius sander, but you could manufacture one of these. However, this has been a very good tool. Like I said, we've had it for about 10 years now. I don't even know how many hundreds of necks we have radiused the fretboards with this tool, but I know it's a bunch. Like I said, it's probably close to 1,000 at this point. It maybe right in that neighborhood. Okay. Here's the bummer part. This tool is not for everybody. If you're making one guitar, like I said, you probably should labor with the sanding block or some other way. But when the fretboards come off of this tool, like I said, they're perfect and they're good to go. Okay. This tool is however many $100 it is. It's $1,200 or $1,300 or $2,000. I don't know how much it costs now. I think when I bought this one, it was close to $1,200, and that was 10 years ago. So I'm sure it's gone up. But there is, like I said, I don't care if it's a $10 sanding block or a $500,000 CNC machine. There is nothing, given the way I have this one set up, that yields a result as good as this machine does, as fast as this machine does, and as consistently as this machine does. Okay, you end up with a fretboard that is perfectly flat, although radiused. The radius is perfect every time. Yeah, this rig is the way to go. again, like I have mine set up. If you're on the fence and you're like, I don't know, maybe I should just if you're thinking about getting it because you're like, I'm making a bunch of guitars now, Doc, I'm looking at you if you don't already have one. The other thing is it's going to be hard to justify this because you're going to say things like, well, that tool costs whatever it costs, and I only use it for 5 minutes for every guitar that takes several hours to make. Wouldn't I be better suited using that $1,200 or whatever this tool costs on some other thing that I can get a lot more juice out of? Maybe, but let me tell you, if your fretboard is dorked up, you guys know all this already. I'm just kind of ramming it home. If your fretboard's dorked up, no matter if you spend 10 hours on it or 10 seconds on it, you're going to be able to, your guitar's not going to play right. So let's if your fretboard is perfect and your frets go in perfect and you don't have to do a bunch of leveling and everything is perfect and good to go, this machine, even though you use it a fraction of the amount of time that you take building the entire guitar, like I said, if you use this machine for 5 or 10 minutes for every guitar that takes, I don't know, 50 or 100 hours to build, this will pay off huge down the line. Your frets will go in nicer. Which means you won't have to do a bunch of leveling of your frets, which means you won't have to do a bunch of grinding on the tops, and you'll just, life's going to be so much better. Okay. Contrast that with, let's say you spent 5 minutes or 5 hours by hand manipulating a sander over a fretboard and you didn't quite get it exactly right. Strike one. Then you go to start putting frets in it and you've got some dips, strike two. You can see you're going to have a bunch of strikes. You're going to have to do a bunch of fret leveling. You're going to have to do a bunch of fret recrowning. More than, I'm not saying that this eliminates, fret leveling and dressing, but man, it makes life so much easier. So figure out what works for you, obviously. I have figured out that no matter what tools I buy in the future, because I've seen them all, this one here is always going to be on the roster, okay? This guy here, or some version of it, will always do my fretboard radius because it just works so well. So, like I said, I've had this tool for almost 10 years now. I've used it on every guitar that I've built since then. Couldn't be happier with it. A couple of mods, okay? You might have to do some mods to yours if you get one, but they're fairly basic, okay? Even the stuff that requires a machinist, I think that anywhere town USA that has someone with a Bridgeport could bang something like this out reasonably easily. You know what I mean? If they had some knowledge. Like I said, the guy who built this was a master machinist, and he did a great job. And it has provided us with yeoman service for over almost a decade. Okay, so if you're thinking about it and you're like, I don't know if I can spend that kind of money. I don't know if I can justify it. Figure out a way to justify it. You will not be disappointed. Like I said, you can spend less money and a whole lot more money and not get the same results as you get with this guy. So, guys, I hope that you like this video because I enjoyed doing this one, and I've got some other videos that I think that you might be surprised what I tell you about and how I'm going to spend some of your money at various tool buying emporiums. Okay. So the other thing that you could do is you could just buy the guitar from me, like for example this all white Limba Hustler, which is going to be so choice. Yeah, or you could come to one of my workshops and I'll teach you how to use this tool. If you come to my neck shaping class, I'll teach you how to do it by hand too, and then I'll show you on this tool, and you'll go, oh, well, yeah. Why don't I just buy this? Yeah. So anyway. So lots of good information out there on this tool. The Grizzly website, of course, is invaluable. You could potentially, you might say, hey, if I have to make this rig here, why don't I just buy an edge sander and kludge the overarm deal together myself. Yeah, why not? I don't see why not. When I bought this tool, I really did think I'm going to buy it once and it's going to be perfect. It's not. Okay, it's not perfect right out of the gate. So if you are super handy and you just say, well, I'm just going to make my own overarm deal, and I'm just going to buy the edge sander from Grizzly or Delta or whoever, yeah, why not do that? But if you've got a little bit of money and a little bit of someone who can do some machining help with you, you can get something that's great and ready to go. Okay. Like I said, you can tell when you put this radius gauge on it, you can tell that it's perfect all the way down. And when you put a straight edge this way, obviously this has frets on it, but when you put a straight edge on the fret, you can't see any light under it. It's perfect every time. Okay, so if you're considering it, this is your old buddy Uncle Matt giving this the thumbs up seal of hubris on the radius, the fretboard radius sander, whichever one you decide to get. Okay, gang, well, thanks for hanging out with me. Thanks for watching. We will see you next time. And until then, I hope you guys have a great week. And if you like this video, give me the thumbs up. If you appreciate content like this, you might want to go over to my Patreon page and consider becoming a member. Even $1 a month goes a long way to helping me bring you stuff like this. And I promise I'm going to start working on the neck through series. It's got to be done by the end of this year. And any level of Patreon membership right now gets you access to all of the neck through workshop. So yeah, that's this time. Next time I do it, it's going to cost more to do that, to watch everything. But right now, even $1 a month gets you everything. So I'm signing off until next time, guys. Have a great week, and we'll see you later. And remember, if you're so smart, start your own YouTube channel. That's what I did. We'll see you next time. I already said have a great week. I never know how to end these things. See you later, everybody.